Hello, Wasteland. Tune those ham radios and hide your chems because you're listening to the Pip-Boys, a Fallout podcast where your hosts, Josh and Austin, cover all things Fallout. Today, we continue our quest to rank each and every vault in the Fallout universe by just how horrifying we find them. Josh is joining me. We got Alec on the ones and twos. How we doing, everyone?
Doing great. Good to be back. I missed this so much.
It is good to be back.
Yeah, we have this more like less is more approach going on with our shows right now, and that just kind of like pushed everything back a little bit on scheduling wise and all that. But we have returned.
We are so fucking back.
We are here to talk all things Fallout. So on the docket for like newsy sections, news. Do the thing, Josh.
The nuclear Fallout news.
Exactly. There it is. The thing we need is a must. Fallout 1 is free on GOG through the month of February, I believe. If you have a Prime gaming subscription. Now that seems like like a quick ad thing. Like, but I think that's Fallout 3 is my favorite game, or Fallout 3 is my favorite game of all time, and Fallout 1 is where it all started. So Fallout 1, I recently picked up myself and tried to dabble in it, and I genuinely liked it. It was in the year 2023, and I was like, I cannot like make myself play this game right now. But Fallout 1, really, really good to see where we all started, and still really, really playable today. So, Josh, do you have any experience in Fallout 1? I think you said no, right?
No, that's the one I want to like remade so I can finally play it. Is it free? It's free on GOG, like Amazon's?
The thing that I clicked on, which gave me said information, was free on GOG somehow through Prime Gaming.
Through Amazon Prime Gaming?
Mm-hmm. So either on GOG or Prime Gaming. Just look at those two things, and I think you can get Fallout 1 for free through this month.
It's the Amazon connection. We're getting closer to the show. They're just gonna weird decision to give out 1 for free. You know?
Sure.
Maybe they give out 3. Or the 3.
So Epic did give out 3 during the holidays.
Yeah.
So maybe that is smart. They started with 3. Like, this is probably the one most people are going to want. But you think they would have went to New Vegas next. But
yeah, exactly.
That like also could be tricky with it being Obsidian. Like, who knows?
Right.
So maybe Fallout 1 was just the next logical choice.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I agree. Like, if starting with 3, like Alec brought up, seems smart. But since I did that, Fallout 1 being like the follow-up, I think makes enough sense. You know? So.
Yeah.
And there's this mod called Fallout London. If y'all have played Fallout 4, Fallout London is a free mod that has been in the works by a small team for what feels like a millennia at this point. And it's finally coming out, again, for free this April. So if you are a Fallout sicko, like myself, and you just kind of want something new in the Fallout genre, like, I will be checking this out. I don't have Fallout 4 on PC, but I'm going to. And I am going to pick up this mod for free. It comes out in April of this year. So,
yeah, I just wish Bethesda, Xbox, the modders, we could figure out just some business arrangement. Literally anything. Just sell this. Get this on consoles. Get this out to as many hands as possible. I want to play it. I do not want to spend $4,000 on a PC to play it. And it's the only new Fallout content other than the show that we've seen since Fallout 76, fucking 5 years ago, 6 years ago at this point. Like, God fucking damn, get this out to more people, please.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That will never happen. Just because of how Bethesda makes shit. But because of their like huge push with like Creation Club and like allowing mods, you think there would be some kind of like, even if you can't sell it, hey, we'll help you with our resources to like get these big projects out there. But
no,
I digress, I guess.
I'm guessing it's because I dabbled with like a while back when I was in college, like modding like Skyrim and all that, and there's all those huge like projects to bring all these crazy other continents in the Elder Scrolls universe.
Skyblivion, right? Wasn't that a big deal?
And then Morrowind, I believe, was another one, like bringing that to there. But so I think because it's so extensive, I think that's probably why it can't come to consoles.
Yeah,
because they're using so much like creation kit stuff.
Sure.
Which I believe you can do Fallout 4 mods on consoles. It just has to be stuff that's all created in the creation system.
Correct. And I also don't think I think there are even exceptions to that rule, but I think that's like the first thing you have to at least do is has to be
Yeah.
created in that club. Because I think there's also stuff that's like this is just for PC. I'm pretty sure because it's just the way things like transfer over something doesn't
Yep.
always apply well. But
Right.
so yeah, that's a good point. Maybe that like that would break the game. You know, like they
Even
have
more
this
than it
outside
already is.
source being like, "Hey, we have this thing," and that Bethesda's like, "Oof," like,
Yeah.
"Well, the way you did this and this and this," it's like, well, kind of a thing. So that's a good point. That is just kind of like the reality of the situation. But it would still be really, really cool because, like I said, we're kind of dying for genuine good follow content because 76 is what it is. I'm not going to say it's
Yeah.
bad, but it is what it is. And it's just not for me. So
No.
having something else like Fallout London come around, and it's also just really cool to see Fallout like in somewhere that isn't the States. Like that just
Right.
intrigues me a lot. I
Yeah.
understand like the Americana is like a big driving force for it, and I'm all
Mhm.
here for it. But like just seeing a different perspective seems
It's so
uh,
cool.
superb. Yeah, it seems
Oh
like
yeah.
something that I would be all in for. So okay, moving on from Fallout London and Fallout One again being free. Um, Favorite DLC for Fallout? Josh, do you want to kick us off with your favorite DLC ever for Fallout?
I know there's some prime ones
Mhm.
for New Vegas. I unfortunately haven't played those.
Mm.
I've played Far Harbor for
3,
for 4
4. God, we just had this conversation.
and
Damn it.
right. And the only other one for 4 I dabbled in was the workshops, just
Sure.
so I could get dogs to my settlements to increase 100% happiness. Other than
Yeah.
that, you gotta do what you gotta do for that trophy, man. But other than that, I haven't played Nuka World. So 3, and I don't like Far Harbor enough for it to be like up there.
Sure.
But three has some prime DLC, and
Hmm.
out of all of it, I'm kind of battling between the Pit and Point Lookout.
Wow,
Um,
the pit. I hated the pit, if I'm being honest. I think we have had this conversation before, so maybe we did talk about
I
this,
th-
but
I think
uh,
so. I think the thing that bumps the Pit down though is that glitch we talked about, favorite Fallout glitch, where there's just no programmed wall when you're finding your 100 ingots and you're just falling through the map. So I think I gotta go Point Lookout, and just solely based on. I love it when they take you to a new environment and like the swamp people, the bayous out in Point Lookout,
sure.
the beef between old family like rivals and shit like that, and just the way that story unfolds. I love it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's reminiscent of Far Harbor, which is the conversation we had before. And I'm like,
Yes,
but Point Lookout is like the Fallout 3 equivalent to Far Harbor in my mind. I think Point Lookout is a 3-1. So I think right, Point Lookout is 4 or 3.
Point Lookout is 3. Far
God damn
Harbor is 4.
it. The one for 3 is what I'm just going to refer to it as now. Is better than the one for 4 in my
I
mind.
agree.
It felt like the same concept. It just like in theme wise, I was like it felt like more explorable in 3 than in 4. 4 felt like they were going for like another completely different vibe, whereas 3 was like here's more fucked up shit, and I was all about it. So
100%. Yeah, 4. I think you're only going to Far Harbor because someone's daughter runs away 'cause she believes she's a synth.
yeah,
So we're still doing Institute shit. We have a weird android that looks like Detective Valentine, but it's not Valentine. He has all sorts of weird fucked up cables in the back of his head.
yeah.
It just devolves into some weird shit, all for the parents just to be like, hey, we'll accept you if you're a synth or not. And it's like, okay, cool. What a fuck! It took so long for us to come to that revelation. God damn it! And there's so many Mirelurks and four just suck. Like I hate it. I hate
I
them.
never minded my alerts because I was just like shoot him in the face and like
Yeah.
they do a thing where they can kind of cover, but like once you get good enough or just utilize VATS, like I always shot them right in the face all the time, just
Oh
straight
yeah.
for the face. But
hundred
yes,
percent.
I understand when you're like overwhelmed by any enemy. Mirelurks are pretty annoying because if you have like
Right.
6 of them that are all covering their face, you're like ah!
Yeah.
So yeah, I can at least fathom that. Mine personally, my favorite DLC is Dead Money, which is something you will not have played, but Dead Money is for Fallout New
Okay.
Vegas.
Yeah.
It's the thing I liked about it is that it felt completely like different from Fallout. Like it didn't feel like a Fallout game. It
Interesting.
basically kidnapped and you are given a like bomb collar. And if you don't like figure out how to escape said thing or go out of the bounds, it goes boom and you die.
Yeah.
You're forced to like work together with other people there who are in the similar situation, have like a bomb collar. I think there's another guy who's just living there now because he escaped. And he's like, nope, this is my life now.
Right.
Um, and the combat was different too because if you're in close quarters and you're forced to like just change the entire way you play. But Dead Money was just it had a really cool narrative. It was Fallout New Vegas, which people like for the writing, and it was just more of that. Um,
Okay.
Dead Money was my favorite. Like just
Mhm.
you kind of like wake up with the bomb collar, and then you get this whole shindig about it, and you're like, this is dope.
Sounds
This is
dope.
like a really cool setup, and I was all about it. So, Dead Money is my favorite.
All right. I'll have to make it through New Vegas first, and then play Dead Money.
Yeah,
Sounds like.
just trudge through New Vegas. Such a terrible game. I know you said you
Oh
tried and
yeah.
you didn't like it, but
Yeah.
totally understand. Uh, so, Alec, I didn't remember. I don't remember if you said you had anything to input on DLC. Did you come
Um,
up with anything or?
yeah, I remember dabbling in Nuka World, but I don't think I got like too far into it just because I was just one of those like after I had beaten the game, I had gotten the season pass like super cheap on PSN or something like that. So that's just one of those I remember dabbling with. Remember enjoying it, but don't nothing of note, I guess, is coming to my
Sure.
mind.
Yeah, Nuka World was more of like a spectacle. Like it was just
Yeah.
cool to just
Right.
be there. So like I understand your feeling you're getting at. You're like, whoa, you're just kind of like sightseeing and seeing all this
Yep.
cool art for that's like focused around caps and the Nuka Cola and all that stuff. Like that it was just cool to just walk around there. Like the
Mhm.
gameplay there, I remember it being kind of interesting, but I was like, I'm just here to like enjoy more Fallout stuff. And it was that. That's what it was. It was good. But yeah. And it didn't blow my socks off as they say.
Right.
So okay, so before we move on to our vault, which we were talking about, Vault 111 today, which for those who don't
Yes,
know
sir.
is essentially the vault that you were introduced to in Fallout 4. So the fact that I kept getting Fallout 4 mixed up with Fallout 3 DLC, it totally makes sense now, right? That's why. Huh?
100%.
Huh? Okay.
It
Um,
happens.
but before we get into that, they're similar premises. You understand why I got them mixed up. We made a mistake last time. We had Mr. House ranked in a certain spot, 1 through 4. I don't remember where it was, but I think we had him above the red and blue overseer.
Right.
Alec pulled us aside and was like, "Y'all are wrong." And Josh and I were like, "You're right," because
Mhm.
we were like, "Yes, this landlord of a dude is somehow worse than this guy who was like doing mind games on everyone and like fooling everyone." And he was like, I don't agree with this." And we're like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right, dude."
It's totally
so
valid. Yeah.
thanks to Alec. The overall genuine ranking of the overseers is number 1 Braun from 112, number 2 13 overseer from 13 because I believe he's nameless, number 3
Yeah.
red and blue overseer from Vault 19, and number 4 Mr. House from Vault 21. And now again, for those listening for the first time or tuning in again, Mr. House not technically the overseer of Vault
No.
21, but he was definitely like the main like architect, I would say, and uh, divulging said situation that went on in Vault 21. So that's why we have him. And we realized that he's not as bad as the other ones. He's just a landlord, like like Josh
Yeah.
aptly put. So
Literally.
sorry, had some phlegm. I'm just trudging through some stuff right now. But yeah, so the overall ranking right there is the new one as said, and now we can get into Vault 111.
Yes, sir.
Okay, getting into the background of Vault 111. We're getting right into it. I'm reading this from fandom.com, and then we'll get into my own personal notes here. Stop me whenever you want to go over something.
Of course.
Located overlooking Sanctuary Hills, Vault-Tec designed Vault 111 to observe the effects of long-term cryogenic suspended animation on unsuspecting test subjects. That's a sentence, right? Like that's a
Yeah.
full-on thing. So we learn later on that like said overseer was like just intrigued with this kind of stuff. So we'll get into that in a little bit later. Vault 111's staff consisted of an overseer and a small team of scientists, security guards, and facility maintenance personnel employed on a short-term basis. Test subjects were lured into Vault 111 from the nearby neighborhoods of Sanctuary Hills and Concord. So people like the bombs are dropping, and they're like, "Oh no, we're gonna save you, we're gonna save you." And
We gotta go.
in retrospect, they weren't really doing that. They were just kind of using their bodies as test subjects, which shocking. I know. Who would have thought?
Right.
On the morning of the Great War, many of the residents had known that America was being bombed, causing a group to flee to Vault 111. If you remember in Fallout 4, the first person you interact with is like the Vault Tech rep, and he's like, "You've been chosen." We were like last second
Mhm.
entries into said vault. We almost didn't go in at all. However, a security team prevented unauthorized residents from entering. Even the Vault Tech rep who advertised the vault. A batch, which is fucked up. A batch of survivors waited on the platform to descend, including the parents of an infant named Sean, which is a very key character in Fallout 4. So I don't want to go too much into said character without spoiling too much. A nuke on the horizon caused a blast all the way to Vault 111, with these particular survivors barely making it inside. Soon after, the residents were given their jumpsuits and were placed in stasis pods after being told deceitfully that the purpose of the pods was for decontamination. Which, my first time playing through this, I didn't catch that. I did
No, me
eventually
neither.
after. Like,
Yeah,
they're just like, oh, come on, come on. Like, you could be like, you could have radiation. Go in these pods, and we'll clean you up so you're not gonna die. And that is not what happened. They just froze
yeah,
them
right.
right there. So that's very Vault-Tec. just want to put
Oh
that out
yeah.
there. So yeah, your bombs are dropping. One, okay. I want to state this. The imagery we were giving as we start descending and we see like the mushroom cloud sort of like overtake like the elevator as it goes down. You'd be dead.
Mhm.
I want that. I want that on the record. You're
Exactly.
dead. Like
Yeah.
the fact that you're descending doesn't mean anything. So
Oh yeah.
you would
It's
have.
some like Indiana Jones in
Uh
the
huh.
fucking refrigerator shit. You're done.
Uh
You're
huh.
done. Like there's nothing. You're done.
You did not make it. This is all a fever dream in your brain as you die.
Yeah.
Like that's what the entirety of Fallout 4. Just kidding. That's not true. Speaking of refrigerator, Indiana Jones. That there's a Easter egg to that I think in Fallout 4, which is it starts a little quest and there's like a
Yeah.
kid trapped in a fridge. Anyway, according to
Oh yeah,
Vault-Tech,
yeah, yeah.
you remember that, and you get the whole family gathering and whatever.
I
According to
remember that.
Vault-Tech standard operating procedures, Vault 111 was to remain sealed for a minimum of 180 days, after which the vault could be opened upon receipt of an all clear signal from Vault-Tech or the overseer's discretion. So what that means is like if it was day 184 and he still hasn't heard from Vault-Tech at all, he can be like, okay, we can all let you out, which is instant death for the record. However, after the 180-day mandatory shelter period elapsed, Vault 111 received no signal, and its staff faced dwindling supplies. They're running out of food, running out of supplies they need to survive. Not great. Kind of prime for a mutiny, if you ask me. Despite requests, and maybe rightfully so, despite requests from the security staff, the overseer refused to unseal the vault door, concerned that the radiation outside the vault had not declined enough to be survivable, which is probably true. Because
Mhm.
after what is 180 days? Is it like 5 months?
Yeah.
Yeah,
6.
yeah. You would need to wait like 20 years for that stuff to
Right.
even remotely drop. So,
I was like, aren't there still
da-da-da.
signs of radiation at Chernobyl?
Yeah, yeah. Like it's that was ground
That
zero,
was
which is a little different, but yes, it's one of
correct.
those things where and again, that's not a nuclear bomb, so it could be different things. But you're absolutely right, where it's like people like that is still blocked off, and like if you're found there, they will like put you in prison because it's like you can't be doing this. Like you can't be encouraging people to come here. Like it's not great because you
Mhm.
can die a very slow and painful death. Shortly after, a faction led by the vault security and support staff engaged in a mutiny against the overseer in an effort to unseal the vault door and leave the vault. In response, the overseer placed the vault on lockdown and demanded all staff to hand over any food, weapons, and medicine. He said, "Not only can you not leave, again, one, I think the overseer knows at this point, like if you go out there, you're gonna die. But
Yeah.
not only can you not leave, give me all your shit." Which that's I don't think in any world that goes over well.
No. God no.
If I am locked in this vault, the underground, and they're like, "So you were telling me your concerns and you want to leave. I understand. We're past the all clear signal that we're supposed to receive. We haven't got it yet. No, not happening. Give me your shit." What?
Yeah.
That's you're supposed to be leading these people. I think you could have done a little better than that. That's all I'm saying. There is no further accounts of events to be found as the logs end here on both the security terminal and the overseer's terminal. In 2227, the Institute, which is another key like player in Fallout 4, had discovered the location of the vault, along with the fact that it contained an infant whose DNA would be completely uncorrupted by post-war radiation. Which I can understand how that can be important. At least I don't quote me on how they go about grabbing said child, but seeking a source of pure human DNA to form the basis of their Generation 3 synths, they send their agent Conrad Kellogg and two scientists to retrieve an infant. However, the child was in cryostasis instead of being decontaminated like they originally thought. he was in the pod with one of his parents. When that parent wouldn't relinquish the hold of their son, Kellogg murdered them while the other parent watched helplessly, trapped in their pod before being placed into stasis once again. So, as the player in Fallout 4, you wake up momentarily because they have to like stall the cryostasis stuff, and you basically see your wife get murdered and your child get kidnapped.
What an opening to a game.
Yeah,
God damn.
in terms of a video game, I was like, "Fuck yeah!" And we'll get into that
Yeah.
later about like how the game implements that, and you get to see pre-war stuff, which is really cool because you don't really see that. But yeah, we'll get into that a little
Right.
bit later. But it was really, really, really intriguing for an opening at least. After witnessing the murder of their spouse and kidnapping of their child, like I just said, the sole survivor awakens in Vault 111 after being held in cryogenic stasis for 210 years, which I believe Kellogg and his gang came like 10 years before that. I think so. Anyway, upon accessing
I
the
can't
Vault
remember.
111 monitoring, or no, it'd be 40 years because I don't want to say too much, but because of an age of a certain person, upon
Yeah.
accessing the
I
Vault
mean, it's
111,
been years since Fallout 4. Like, if people
uh,
haven't played it, like,
I'm
come
spoiling
on.
it, but I'm not spoiling it. You know what I mean? But you have a point. Upon accessing the Vault 111 monitoring terminal, they learned that all of the other subjects that had entered the vault, except for themselves, their spouse, and their child, had died of asphyxiation due to the life support failure. In Dangerous Minds, the sole survivor, I think that's the quest, discovers that Kellogg had been directed not to reactivate the life support on the other residents and not to release them. 60 years later, due to an error in Vault 1, so 6 years, due to an error in Vault 111, the sole survivor is released from cryostasis and escapes. However, it is later revealed that the release was, in fact, a personal choice made by said person, now director of the Institute, and not Vault system error as initially thought. So that's a lot to take in, right? Uh,
Yeah.
If we're talking in terms of just the Vault and the Overseer, so the experiment was cryostasis, and it was like the effects on people who didn't know that they were going to be like
Right.
subjected to this test. I can probably confirm that the inconclusive data came from this test because there was
Exactly.
like one survivor and he got interrupted in the middle, and the rest were just purposely killed because they're like, we don't
Hmm.
need it. We have the one infant that we found here that we can use, and we'll save the parent as backup because they share the same DNA. That was what I took from that event. So in terms of like the experiment, it's like the overseer, because this is the same vault that has the cryo later. Do you know what I'm talking about, Josh? That gun.
Yes, the weapon with the master lock that you can
Mm-hmm.
go back and get
Or
after the fact.
you can just bring dog meat in there and say, "Go find shit," and then he'll bring you the gun.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never gone back because fuck master locks, dude.
No,
I didn't know I could just do
I
that.
totally agree. But because you can tell dog meat to just like, oh, go get me something, right? Just go get me a tin can or whatever. And sometimes it'll
Wow.
take you a few times to like keep telling him like, okay, good boy, thank you for bringing me this fork. But if you
Yeah.
keep telling him, he'll eventually bring you the gun.
Damn.
Like
Josh is about
somehow
to boot
dog
up
meat's up
Fallout
there. Just
4.
Fuck yeah.
what? What's that,
Master
Alec?
locking.
Josh is about to boot up Fallout 4 again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get cryo later, like right at the beginning. Not right at the beginning, but as soon as you get to the Red Rocket truck stop and you
Yeah.
find dog meat, you can go right back. And as soon as you are
Damn.
able to command him, I think you can take him back and get it. And again, it doesn't happen like immediately. Like you do have to kind of like keep being like, oh,
Right.
good job, tin can, cool. But yeah, and from my experience, that gun is not that great. Early game,
No.
fantastic, lovely for the first like 20 levels of that game, like leveling up. But after that, it's like, well, unless I'm taking on like 3 enemies max, it's not very good.
Yeah.
So it's still cool to have though, and just pull out every once in a while just to freeze these bitches and just kind of go to town on them. But okay, so like the overseer had interest in cryostasis, I guess, and that was something because there's even a log in one of the terminals that says, "Hey, this is just a cool way for me to like spend my time. Like, I have this experiment that has to do with like freezing people. I'm gonna take that exact technology and make this gun," and that's what he does. It's like, all
Hmm.
right, I guess they chose the right guy for the job, I guess.
Literally.
But I do want to get into the game implementation, which when we pitched this show, Josh, that was a key aspect for you.
Yeah.
The opening for the game fucking cool. Like we've already said, like that's really
Incredible.
cool. Seeing it from the viewpoint of like me, I always play as a male character from like the husband, and then seeing your wife die and your kid get kidnapped, and seeing the bombs drop and you running to safety pre-war, super cool. What do you think about that? I loved it.
I love the entire setup leading up to the events, and then in terms of like vaults, right? Like all the ones we've talked about so far, you have to naturally find. For starting out in a vault, I think this is definitely one of the better ones, right? Waking up, you know what happened, you're kind of getting your bearings, and there's just visual storytelling in terms of
Mhm,
like dead people in lab coats,
mhm,
dead security guards,
mhm,
right? And then you read the logs, you see exactly what's going on, right? The fight over rations and stuff like
mhm,
that, and we're like figuring out more and more. And of course, I know you don't want to read them right off the rip. You want to get into a new Fallout game, but
mhm,
when you read them, there's stuff there, and the visual storytelling of the level layout backs it up.
mhm.
You know, you can figure out what happened, come to
100%.
your own conclusion.
Because like their quarters are very small. I think the quarters are
Yeah.
like almost the exact same size as the one the
Oh
overseer gets
yeah.
for himself. Yeah, pretty much my first playthrough is always like, let's just rush through this. I wanna get out there and
Exactly.
see the world. Second playthrough is when I kind of go through and I read the logs, and like in the first
Mm,
playthrough I read some of them, right? Like I pretty much am just
right.
clicking on them just in case that triggers something like for
Mm,
my quest stuff. But yeah, second playthrough is where like if you're getting into the stuff like that we're doing right now, which we're going over the vault's lore, the logs are really intriguing. You
mm,
genuinely have to read them, which I understand is not for everyone. Usually it's not for me, but this shit really, really, really tickles my fancy, as they say. So,
right.
but yeah, in terms of game implementation, I think the kicker for me was pre-war stuff. We don't get a lot of it,
Yeah.
and it was like the Vault-Tec rep was a nice little like comical nod, and I liked that a lot. I also think I don't think they haven't like confirmed this, but I think the Vault-Tec rep reminds me of Todd Howard. Like I think it just
Hundred
like
percent.
the way he looks and the way he talks reminds me of Todd Howard, but
Yeah.
that could be unintentional, or maybe I'm just directing him.
He is
Not
also a salesman. He's just there to
sure.
sell you stuff.
Daddy Howard at his finest.
Yep. Sell you sweet little lies.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Damn it. And that's what he does sometimes. All right. So, the video I watched mentioned how this form of cryostasis is beyond what current science dictates. I know it's a video game, so who cares? But I think it is fitting that Vault-Tec would have this technology and use it for this, right? This
Right.
like, oh, we had this cryostasis like stuff we can use to like, I don't know, prolong people who have like terminal illnesses for us to figure out how to save them, or
Yeah.
there's probably other uses, but that's just one that's coming top of my head. And they're going to use it for this bullshit experiment to see how unsuspecting subjects react to this.
Right.
So that very again, just very Vault-Tec. It's like, well, maybe you
Hundred
could have
percent.
put that to a lot better use, but what do I know? Such experiments even called for cryostasis to continue if the world outside recovers. They wanted their results regardless. So that point that I just read is like they were going to get their results as in them as in Vault-Tec, and they still wanted to kill everyone. Essentially, they didn't care. They just wanted
Well,
cryostasis
yeah.
to be a tool for them after the war, post-war, because they wanted to
Right.
like, if we can't figure this out, we're gonna like essentially take turns putting people in stasis until we figure this shit out. That's kind of
Mhm.
like how I took that. So their dark experiment this time around was to save their own ass, because they literally, which could be everything honestly, but
Right.
some of them it's like the one we talked previously. Which one? 21, the gambling one. That's not for anyone. That's just someone having
Yeah. That
fun.
one's cool. Hundred
That
percent.
was cool. Yeah, I totally agree. But like this one seemed like it had a dark purpose, like under the surface. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So um, and it talks about in the vault where there was a divide between scientists and like the security slash maintenance team, and that like you said, that story is sort of told even if you don't read the logs, because you see like two dead bodies in the lab coat, you see a couple dead bodies and like with like the security helmet, and you can kind of make out that
Yeah.
like, yeah, eventually things kind of went south and people were like, you know,
Exactly.
kind of hurting each other, kind of going through it. And I think it's concluded that I mean, it doesn't surprise me. Like the security team won. They eventually
Yeah.
killed the overseer, because the overseer was essentially sided with the scientists, whether they wanted to or not, because they were taking on said experiment, or heading said experiment. So the scientist or the security team sort of had to break in and kill him because you find
100%.
his dead body as well with, I believe, like a bullet hole in his skull. And I'm like, fuck yeah, you showed
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
So
And then guys presumably took. I think there's more scientists than security people, and that means like after everything is said and done, the conflicts ended. There's only one Pip-Boy remaining, and that's the one you pick up and have throughout
thank
the
God.
entirety of the game. But like there's only one left. Like everyone else has
Mhm.
stolen them to leave and go try to get radiation poisoning. You
Sure.
know?
Sure. Yeah. For the main character, the story could have been so different because I mean, not that I would do this, but I'm just talking now. The Pit Boy is the way to open the door. So
Right.
like if you
And
don't
get
like
out.
let's say they took all the Pit Boys, you're just fucked. You're just screwed. Like you're just trapped
Yeah.
in there until you can if maybe you're a scientist or whatever, maybe you can figure out how
Right.
to, use something else and get in there, but if you didn't have
Mhm.
that Pit Boy, you're locked in that vault forever, which is I don't know if that's
Exactly.
worse or better, but
Right.
I
And
wouldn't
then
wouldn't want that either.
talking about the gamification too.
Mhm.
Once you get outside, like there are just skeletons, and
Oh
who knows what
yeah.
that could be? It could be either the Vault Tech rep and the Vertibirds and
Well, I can
all those
confirm it's
guys.
not the Vault-Tec rep because he's a character that survives, and you find
Oh
him
right,
later
right,
on.
right.
Yeah.
But like any of the other families from Sanctuary Hills, it also could be the security team. They could
Mhm.
have got out and then boom, nuclear
Yeah.
radiation just what 5 months after nukes fell, just drop dead.
Could.
Just
Yeah.
fucking just drop dead. Like that could be them too, you know?
Uh-huh, I totally agree. That's a nice aspect too, because usually we don't see that like event transpire. So like when we
Right.
eventually leave the vault, we see those skeletons, and you're
Yeah.
kind of like, oh shit, those could be people who died to make sure I didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like
Hmm.
the video I watched, which was by both Oxhorn and the Nth Apple, I believe. So thank you
Right.
for that. That was good studying. They talk about how like Baltec is shitty, like it's totally true, but there could be good people working for Baltec. I thought that was like,
Yeah.
that's a good aspect of it because like, and maybe they were just working their 9 to 5, didn't think this nuclear thing would ever happen. That's just
Hmm.
bullshit propaganda, and they probably paid well, so they probably like, hey,
Right.
so they're just doing their job, trying to get you into the vault, even as the bombs are dropping. Like some of those bodies there could have been just normal people doing their
Sanctuary. Yeah.
duty to make sure you didn't die. So just something to think about. Okay, so we went over. Oh, we did not cover the 80% thing. So the 80% thing, from what I understood, is that they scientists there or like medical personnel that they had that were there. I'm not sure exactly what that entailed. They
Yeah.
were not. They were told to essentially let people die unless they only had 20% left. So if they were told to allow 80% of the experiment die, because
Right.
they wanted to see like what the subjects would go through from this
Hmm.
prolonged cryostasis. So they're basically telling doctors to not follow their oath until it got down to 20% left. So that's
Yeah.
even just another dark layer for you.
Right.
Um, Another interesting thing, which is this is like a nice little cherry on top. This isn't as important, but in one of the logs, there's a person named Nordhagen, or I could maybe I mispronounced that, so I apologize. But he was
Hmm.
like the one person who didn't show up. Because if you go through the logs, it says like pod one empty, right? And
Hmm.
then it says like pod two, pod three, and all the rest of the 8 of the are filled with someone. And it's unclear if it's that or if it's someone who was like supposed to be on one of the teams and they didn't show up, right?
Yeah.
But in one of the logs, it says everyone showed up except for Nordhagen, blah blah blah. And then later on in the game, you discover a location called Nordhagen Beach, and you're like,
Hmm.
huh, maybe this
That's awesome.
dude took the information he had about the bombs dropping and just started prepping. and
Right.
he eventually was good enough to not only like live through the bombs, but like start a settlement or like an area over
Yeah.
here. And that's just really intriguing to me. And you would, because you can discover Nordhagen Beach, which is probably the case for me, and not even know what context that plays to Vault
Exactly.
111 because I didn't until watching this video. So I
Same
think
here.
that's a nice little touch that I enjoyed. And I don't know if you can kind of like go deeper into that and find like logs or whatever about like blah blah blah. This is what happened. This is what I did. And if it's Fallout, probably in like a little minuscule ways, they probably sprinkle stuff like that in there. But I don't think it
Right.
right out and says it. So okay, to sort of recap, cryostasis on unsuspecting hosts or subjects. They were told to let 80% die. They were told to wait for 180 days before they let the people who aren't even in the experiment out.
Yeah.
or until they get an all clear. And Vault-Tec probably knew there's a pretty good chance we're not going to survive this. So the fact that they're like, hey, you need to wait in your vault until you hear from us is still
Mm-hmm.
pretty fucked up if you think about it.
100%.
So if we are going to rank this, we'll start with the overseer. I think he's an unnamed overseer once again. And before we get
Yes.
into that, do you have any last minute thoughts on Vault 111?
No, just a great way to start the game. I have a lot of thoughts on the villain and what we're about to get into, though.
The overseer?
Yes,
Okay. Just wanted to wonder who you're pretending to on the villain, because there's a little nuance to said vault.
I think so. Yes,
Okay.
100%.
So the overseer for Vault 111 was someone who I think it's confirmed in the logs that he didn't know that the all clear literally wouldn't come. He had no idea.
Hmm.
He was unsuspecting to that, almost like his victims, the people who were in the test subject, or in the cryostasis pods, because they didn't know that was coming. Decontamination. So he was also kind of in the dark about it, but he also signed up to be part of the experiment. So don't give him too much leeway here. But he was leading the team of scientists who were studying the subjects who he knew could not be saved.
Yeah.
If they were going to die, they were supposed to be allowed to die. So
How do we tackle this?
the way, because I think there's so many more layers to this one than I expected. Are you
Yeah.
kind of feeling that too, Josh?
I am. To me, just because like there's logs
Mhm.
of the overseer's enthusiasm for it, right?
Sure,
I think it might be hinted at that he's providing like his own chemicals or his own resources to this experiment.
could be.
He also at one point says, "I wish I could join him. I wish I could be in those pods."
There was
He
one
is
empty pod, my guy. You could have jumped in there.
literally, he is just in the blue on all this. I think the villain here is straight up just Vault-Tec. Oh,
Ooh,
and it's budgetary constraints. Why are there only 6 pods or however 9 pods for an
I think
entire community of people?
I think there was 8.
Why are there seven staff members for this? You know,
Yeah,
why is there? You guys say you can let people out at 6 months. Why is there barely enough rations for 6 months?
yeah.
Why isn't there enough for 6 years
Hmm.
just in case contingencies?
Hmm.
I think budgetary cuts is the villain here.
Wow,
Literally.
you heard it
Yeah.
here, folks. It's
I mean,
layoffs. Layoffs
I
are the
mean, if you
bad
think
guy.
about it, why is there just this random vault in the middle of this random neighborhood? You would think
Right?
you want a larger like area to house more people. Like they spent all the money making the vault.
The way I equated that, and this is just my head canon, okay,
Yeah.
Alec. This guy who was the overseer who had interest in cryostasis was a local. And that's the
I
only
can see that, yeah.
that's the only thing I can even kind of like say that's why it's here. But
Right.
people can be flown around wherever, especially in the age of the pre-war that we know Fallout to be. The technology was not lacking, so he could have
Hmm.
been flown somewhere. But that's kind of how I took it. But I can't really speak for how that is. So I put Vol 11 Overseer, Vault-Tec, and now I'm gonna put budget cuts as as the bad guy. Um,
Right.
so,
And
and I have him
like
just placeholder there at 5, but let's. Do we
right.
feel like that is worse than Mr. House? I think so.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like there's still some fucked up stuff going on with the overseer.
Mhm.
The overseer, like as soon as he's getting pushed back from the team, and the security team is like, hey, like it's at your discretion. Can you let us out? Like he's
Mhm.
demanding that they hand over all the food and the weapons and everything
Yeah.
like that. Like I think he's like kind of put in the middle
Mhm.
between Vault Tech and his experiment and this group of people that he's supposed to be looking after. And I think being put in the middle, he turns out to do some scummy things, and
Yeah.
because of it, he gets ultimately he gets what he deserves, right?
I agree. He sided more with the experiment than his
Yeah,
people. And by his people, like I'm not even talking about the people in the experiment. I'm talking about the residents that were living with him and he
yeah,
was talking to. even the scientists who he was like more
Literally.
close with,
Yeah.
rather than like the security staff or the maintenance personnel.
Hmm.
Yeah, he said, "Nope, I want my results," because he was so into this thing, and like you said, he was just scummy. Because if that's something you would do, then they picked the right guy for the job. Like I said, they picked the right mother
Oh,
to
yeah.
be the overseer of this vault.
Yeah.
So
And so because of that, like I would put him like I think he's a lot like he is more evil than Mr. House.
mhm, I agree.
Right, him and Voltec. Like I think again, Mr. House just being a landlord. Like I would put him above um, above Mr. House in the
Mhm.
ranking, but not above Red and Blue.
You
Is
wouldn't,
that the
okay.
ranking?
Is that just because we're kinda strictly thinking about the overseer here? We're trying to sorta hone in because if we talk about Vault-Tec as a whole, we get to equate that to all the vaults. You know what I
Ooh,
mean?
yeah,
So
yeah,
if we're talking strictly the Vault 111 overseer, I kind of agree with you because
right,
he was more so just evil for evil's sake rather than
yeah,
like going out of his way to genuinely fuck up people in said vault and like lead them towards the experiment in that manner. And now this
yeah,
experiment for that, just to kind of like make it an even playing field, his experience, like the people in the experiment were just kind of like comatose the entire time. So like the only like
right.
fucked up shit he could do to them is like kill them, or would
Hmm.
just not, it's focused elsewhere, like the residents, like we talked about, like the scientists and the maintenance personnel. So the fucked up
Yeah,
aspect of it has to do with the personnel and not exactly the experiment. Not that that has to take anything away from how fucked up said overseer is or how horrifying.
right.
But yeah, I kind of agree with you. I do think it's close. Like if at the end of the day we're like, nah, we're gonna nudge it above red and blue, I wouldn't hate it. Is what I'm getting at.
Right.
So, but I'm with you because the um, red and blue overseer from Vault 19, as we're coining him for this ranking, I think
Hmm.
he went out of his way more. Well,
I think
he tried to
like
help his people more too.
a blue overseer is like left out, right? And red overseer knows a
That's
little
true.
bit more, right? And they're like fucking with people purposefully and like playing mind games and like there's a lot more like malicious intent there as opposed to just a dude who's working on his experiment and just trying to keep the peace, you know?
hmm Yeah, I think you're right overall, but I do think there's nuance to it. Is all I'm
Right.
getting at. I do think because like if we're taking like it was the blue overseer who knew more or less, it doesn't matter. One of them
Yeah.
one of them knew more than the other. If we're just equating the one who knew more and still didn't do anything about it, then yeah, I think it's like clearly over it, but
Right.
or under it for being like good or bad. But if we're talking about like something that more horrifying, like yeah, the one who knew
Yeah.
more information, like you probably should have at a certain point been like, all right, this experiment is foobar. I'm gonna save my people. And the other one tried to do that. The other
Right.
overseer was like, nope, I don't know. I know I'm in the dark. I'm gonna try to figure this out for my people. And
Mhm.
credit to him, he tried. He tried.
You tried.
But when you're in a vault that has to do with mind games, not you're probably not gonna win. Just saying.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, literally.
okay, now just the vault as a whole for how horrifying it is. Horrifying for, and I like having that being the term we're kind of like basing it off of. I don't know if this one is like as grim as the others.
Yeah, yeah. There's the aspect of lying to people, being like, "Oh, it's your sanitary pod." Just kidding, you're frozen,
Mhm.
and then killing them within that freezing. But like, fuck, if you were to be like, "Hey, you can be cryogenically frozen for the next 200 years after nuclear fallout," I'd be like, "Fuck, I'd take it. I wouldn't take any of the
That's a
other ones,
good
but I'd
point
take this
too.
one.
Like
I would take this one."
even if they said 50-50 chance you don't make it. But if you don't make
Yeah,
it, you could pretty much go in your sleep.
literally.
So it's like,
Yeah,
huh, huh.
peaceful.
I, and I don't think it's like a given that you go in your sleep because I think there's some imagery, but like when Kellogg and his people came in, like they kind of like purposefully, because asphyxiation is you can't breathe. So
Right.
for all I know, they were awake, just like we were in that moment, and then they couldn't
Yeah.
breathe and died. But I mean, unknowingly to them, obviously, but like that still might be a better way to go than in the wasteland. So
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah, and I think. I could be wrong. I don't know science of all this, but I think if you can't breathe for long enough, your brain like shuts down to like try to,
Right.
yeah. So you would only be suffering for a very small amount of time rather than being blown up or irradiated in the wasteland. So I do like that point where in terms of like me staying in this vault, if I was a person in cryostasis who happened to die, like that sucks, but like could have been a lot worse.
Right?
So
Exactly. We could be being fucked with
mhm,
mentally, like every single day. Being made to believe that a different faction is trying to kill us. We could be being tortured by a German scientist as a 6-year-old girl. Like there's so many worse outcomes. And then the entirety of the wasteland, like you said, like there are worse things. There are a lot
mhm,
worse things here. I
mhm,
think this
mhm,
is
mhm,
pretty low on like how fucked up it is.
mhm, mhm. I totally agree. So in terms of ranking said, I'm going to start the bidding at 3, which is right above the Fallout 1 vault, which I think the experiment for Fallout 1 was like low resources, right? Wasn't that the whole shtick? I'll look it up.
Was that
That's from Fallout 1,
right?
Vault 13.
Yeah, wasn't that like trying to just breed warriors or breed the strongest group of people?
Yes, that sounds right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was like over
like they're trying to
time.
breed soldiers, right? And that was
Yep.
the enclave aspect of it too, or
So I mean,
maybe why
hey,
the enclave wanted them.
that's fucked up, but that honestly just kind of seems like the military of that time. And I know
Yeah,
that's so harsh to say, but is that is that better or worse than the cryostasis stuff? If we're talking about like the experiment itself, it's tough. That's tough. I
it is
think.
tough.
I think you know what? I think I might inch it out to Fallout 1 actually. Now that we're having this conversation, because the experiment for Vault 111 was very short lived, right? Because like the
Yeah,
mutiny happened pretty quickly, and the one in Vault 13, there was like
they're like
overseer after
surviving,
overseer after
right?
overseer after overseer because they were like you said, breeding these warriors. Yeah,
Yeah,
essentially we're breeding. So
yeah,
yeah, I think I'm gonna walk back my statement there
100%. I
and
would.
put it at
Yeah,
4.
I put this second to last. Um, just because I like gambling, and I think gambling is like again better than democracy. I think that's a. I think they had a good system there until a guy cheated the system. But like the one from Vault 21, I believe it is the gambling one. Like
Yes. Yep.
I think that one's pretty chill, and then this one's like slightly it is worse, but it's not as bad as just trying to breed warriors for war.
Mhm.
You know.
Initially, I was like, nah, cryostasis being like unsuspecting, like it's fucked up, but like it's not as bad as genuinely. And then there's the part after where you have to also like murder the death claws in said thing when they're just trying to be a friend and live out their lives. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that there's a whole thing. But yeah, I think you convinced me that cryostasis is still better than gambling or worse than gambling, but not more worse than Fallout 1's Vault 13
So
and
I think
breeding warriors.
the best way to describe it is it's just shady for Vault 111. Not necessarily like worse or evil. Like it's just shady.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good way to put it. I like that, Alec. Thank you for that input. So the current overseer rankings are Braun, the mad scientist in Vault 112 is number 1. 13, we have the 13 overseer, which I think technically we could say like there are several, but we know the one from our story that we get in
Yeah.
Fallout 1 where he was like purposefully breeding these warriors and sending people out to die and pretty much sending people to their death over and over and over and over again.
Right.
Red and blue overseer was the guy. Well, again, it's red/blue. Where one of them knew what they were doing and going in on these experiments to fuck with your minds. Vault 11 overseer we just went through. I also put slash budget cuts, which I think that's funny.
Yeah.
Mr. House is number 5. So Braun, 13 overseer, red and blue overseer, 11 overseer, Mr. House. That's the current ranking for 1 through
Works with
5.
me.
And the vaults ranking, we have 112, Tranquility Lane, Vault 19, the red and blue vault, Vault 13, Fallout 1/Deathclaw Enclave, number 4, Vault 111, Cryostasis, and number 5, Vault 21, Gambling, which I still think is a very good contender for being the one that Josh and I will choose at the end of this and being like, nope, that's the one we want to live in.
100%, man. 100%.
Still a pretty high percentage there. All right. So, what do you think about our ranking, Josh?
I wholeheartedly agree with it. I think we're just so fucking back, dude. We're back and we fucking got it. We nailed it. 100% definitive rankings.
Thanks for Alec to like hold us accountable and being like, "Yo,
Yeah.
Mr. House is not worse than these motherfuckers."
Yeah, literally.
I think we were too much into the sauce at that point where we're like, yeah,
Yeah.
this guy fucking sucks. But I think we also know more about Mr. House. I think that's kind of the problem on doing this
Right.
the way it is. So, okay. Any last second thoughts, Josh? Anything you want to get out there?
No, I think we covered everything.
Okay, thank you for watching Pip-Boys, a Fallout podcast, where we are ranking each and every vault. The next vault on, I don't know if I started doing this, but the next vault is Vault 68 and 69, which are, I think, only available in comics. So do some reading.
Yeah. Nice.
Thank you for watching. Goodbye.